Hey guys, what's up? It's Thursday night, and today I've got my AverMedia GC573 Live Gamer 4K HDR capture card. I got this today in the mail. This is about a $300 capture card, so this is fairly pricey, but the one from Elgato was like $400, and it can't do what this one can do, so it seemed like a no-brainer for this to be the model I went with. But it's capable of 4K 60 hertz HDR capture. You can do 1080p at 240 hertz, and although it doesn't say it on here, you can do 1440p at 144 hertz. Well, that's kind of useless when uploading to YouTube, for example, because there's there's the limitation on like the video when it gets up there. The max it'll do is 60 frames a second, but it's capable of those things. So eventually, assuming there's a site that can host video of those refresh rates at some point, and maybe there is one that I'm unaware of, but assuming they ever do that, I'll be able to put videos up there of those kind of refresh rates. It does some RGB lighting, and it has a Recorder Central software that you use to do your streaming and your recording. I'm going to attempt to use this strictly for recording purposes, and the reason I want to do it is like when I run a benchmark in my gaming desktop, if I try to record at the same time using like NVIDIA Shadowplay, for example, you have a performance hit, and therefore your score is not what it should be. So what I've done is built this computer over here, which I know it's a little reflective with the glass on there, but I'll get that out of our way here. It's got nice little tempered glass. This is an InWin 301 case. It's micro ATX. The motherboard and stuff. So what I did was I ordered like this pre-built Dell refurb machine off Amazon. Please forgive my shitty wiring, by the way. I'll figure out a better way to do that eventually, but right now I'm just trying to get this into work and make sure everything is actually going to function. But got it off Amazon for like $285, $290. It has a 3rd gen i7 3770, 8 gigs of RAM, and it had a 500 gig hard drive with Windows 10 Pro. You figure to build something like that, just the OS is $100. You know, the processor, depending on where you get it, you might find it used for cheaper, but for the most part, it seemed like a reasonably good deal. So I decided I wanted to put it in a different case to look a little bit nicer, and I replaced the main hard drive with a SSD instead for like $50 in Best Buy. They had a 500 gig Samsung 860 Evo for like 50 or 60 bucks. So it seemed like a pretty good deal. And I got a Corsair power supply in there instead, because if I do decide to put a dedicated card in here, I wanted more. It had like a 275 watt supply in it with no PCI Express 6-pin connectors, and I wasn't sure initially when I was looking at capture cards, like if anything would be required to run the card. I just thought that 275 watts was kind of cutting it close, so I got this for like $50 too. It's a Corsair. It's partially module, but it's mostly module. It just has like the 24-pin 12-volt, and the CPU connections are connected to the power supply. Everything else is optional, so you don't have to have too many wires running from it. But this motherboard is so proprietary that even the power switch has a proprietary socket. It's hard to show it, but it's yeah, you can't really see it up in there too well, but it's like a little 5-pin thing that you can't hook to this case. So I have the power switch just hanging out the back of the case so I can turn it on and off. Eventually, I'm trying to win an eBay auction right now for a replacement motherboard for like $40, and if I can get that, then I'll just swap it out and everything will be fine. And I'll just store the Dell board in case I need it later, I guess. Whatever. This is ending up being more expensive than I intended, but it's fine. Whatever. You can't even hook up like regular fans to this case. Like everything on it is proprietary. Or at least, I mean, the SATA cables are standardized, but yeah, you can't hook up hardly anything to it. Or, like I say, there's no fan headers. There's only like this bizarre, I don't think you can see one. Whatever, I'm getting off topic, but anyways, it's got a main PCI Express. There's 2 PCI Express slots in this, and this card runs off PCI Express on a 4X bus, and it only uses 2.0 lanes, and these are 2.0 sockets, so it should work. Some questions about how well it will perform, whether or not it can record or not, but what I'll do here is open up the box, and we'll go over that here in a second. My camera only will record for 5 minutes at a time, so I gotta start the next segment here, so let's do that. Be right back once I get this open. Alright, so I have the box out of its little sleeve. We got that plastic off there. Let's open this up and have a peek at what we get. Oh, it's foam. That's just what I've always wanted, is a box full of foam. Oh, there's other stuff. Okay, thank God. Alright, so here's our little card. It's kind of cool looking. It's like the size of a sound card, which is kind of neat. Let's set that off to the side for a second here. So it came with it. It said in the box that it included an HDMI 2.0 cable, which seems to be correct. So that's cool. I already got lots of HDMI cables, but more is always welcome. I've got, well, I'm not going to show that to you guys, but it comes with a free copy of CyberLink PowerDirector 15. The product key is on that card, so like I say, I'm not going to put that in my video, but that's in there. I already have CyberLink PowerDirector 17 Ultra, so I don't need that. I might give it to a friend or see if somebody wants it, maybe. Your warranty card, insider program, etc., basically standardized stuff. And then we have, of course, some form of quick installation media guide, instructions, etc. Basically how to hook it up, which is not terribly convoluted. So, if you want to understand, so like going back to this, like I said, these are PCI Express 16. These are using 2.0 lanes, not 3.0, so this should be a sufficient way to get this to work. Sorry, the camera's going all over the place. I'm, again, working with one hand, so deal with it. So here's our card outside of the box. Doesn't look like there's any additional power connections required. It's got a little heat sink internally there. And you have your HDMI in and HDMI out. And this card allows pass-through of 4K 60 Hertz HDR, and it will record that as well. So whatever it can pass through, it can also record pretty much. A lot of cards are limited on that. Like I looked at the USB-C model that they had, because I thought that would be kind of cool to use with like on my main desktop to record from other machines, or I thought maybe I could use a laptop to record and get a laptop with USB-C and connect that card to it. But that card is limited to 4K 30 Hertz HDR, and we don't want to drop our frame rate in half. So basically, we're going to throw this in here. Heater just turned on, sorry about the noise. But I'm going to throw that in there and fire this thing up and see about installing their media and so forth. I'm not 100% certain it will work without a dedicated video card. There's some question on their website about like the system requirements based on what you're doing with it. They only list requirements on the site as if you were going to use the PC that you put it in to also play games and to stream video like to YouTube or Twitch. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this PC to record video strictly from my main gaming desktop. So if it's just recording, it's not streaming, and it's not playing the game, it shouldn't require nearly as intensive a system, to handle that. Now it said on their site the system requirements for streaming and gaming at the same time, and at 1080p 60 frames a second, they wanted you to have like a like 6th or 7th gen like i5 with like GTX 1060 video card. And then they said for no wait, sorry, it was 3rd gen i5 and 1060 to do 1060 to do 1080p. To do 4K, it was a current gen ish, like 6th or 7th gen i5. They recommend an i7, of course, for hyperthreading, and I think like a GTX 1080 or 1080 Ti to do the 4K, because again, like if you're going to play in 4K and you're going to stream, there's a lot of horsepower that goes into that. But again, I'm just going to record with it. Shouldn't need that. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and throw the card in the system here, and I'm going to boot it up, the machine up. I don't have a dedicated card in this. I'm just going to use the integrated IGP that's part of the 3770, which the machine definitely works. I've had it hooked up and updated it and everything. But we'll see what happens here in a minute. It may or may not work. If it doesn't work, then I'll have to probably get a dedicated card in there, which may take me longer. I'll have to find something cheap and set that up. But I'll be back in a minute once I hook this up and get some drivers installed and so forth. Alright, the card is powered up, and I got all the drivers installed and their software from their website, so they have their Recording Central software. The card did not work in the primary PCI Express slot, so I put it in the secondary one, and it seems to be fine. So either there's something wrong with that slot, or maybe it's a BIOS configuration. I don't know what the deal is, but like I say, it seems to be working in this slot, so we'll take what we can get. I've got my Western Digital 3 terabyte MyBook on there, so I can store some of these files, because they're going to be large files, and I only got a 500 gig solid state drive in there. That'll fill up quickly. But I got plugged up the front here. Pretty cool looking little case. I got it from a local store for like 80 bucks. I thought that was pretty pretty decent. It was only a couple dollars more than if I had bought it on Amazon. So whatever. We've got our program installed here. So we've got our AverMedia stuff. But basically you've got your capture stream page, which right now of course isn't capturing anything because there's no signal coming through. See, it says, and it's hard to read that probably through, whoa. Huh. Hopefully there's no, oh, that's nice. Be right back when I figure this out. Alright, I restarted the machine. I got it loaded up again. I don't know what the deal was. It wouldn't let me reload it. It just kept saying it was already running. I found the task in the task manager and it wouldn't let me kill the task. So their software may be a little buggy. We'll find out. Hopefully that's not a problem. But you've got recording quality options here. You can change it from, you know, like down to 720p or even lower than that, I believe. Or of course all the way up to 4K with 60 hertz. And then over here is just your big record button. So whenever you start, you can tell it you want to record, you know, to start recording or stop recording. It looks like you can take screenshots with the snapshot button. You've got a streaming tab open here, which apparently, I know that you can integrate this with OBS and some other streaming platforms. I'm not going to do any of that stuff, but it is an option. And multi-stream, I'm not sure how that works, honestly. So I know for some of you guys who are looking for using this for that sort of thing, if this video doesn't help you, I apologize. There are other videos out there that'll probably go over streaming more. I'm sure a lot of people are buying this to stream with it, and I'm not going to do that. So I apologize in advance. My purpose for this is primarily recapturing 4K HDR in 60 frames per second that I can then, you know, splice clips together or something and upload a video to YouTube. I don't plan to stream any live gaming to speak of with this. I could do that with shadow play and it really wouldn't affect my performance that much on my main desktop. And this is mostly like to record, like say 4K HDR, and also to do like benchmarking with my main desktop so I can avoid any tax, you know, like the system doesn't get taxed if it's not the one doing the recording. This system will do the recording and thus prevent any like reduced scores and things like 3D Mark. So sorry if that's what you're looking for, is for like how to stream with it. That's not what I'm going to do with it. You get your settings here, so you can set like your save path for where your videos will go. I'm putting mine on my, my book that I was mentioning. So there's you can just enable VSync to improve video smoothness as you record. I'm not going to do that yet, and I'll see how it turns out. Shortcuts, so you can do like keyboard shortcuts to do various things like start or stop recording or streaming. Recording from your microphone, take a snapshot, add time marks to live editing. I'm not sure what that means exactly. Press to talk for your microphone, and assign a microphone if you have one, which I don't have one on this computer, so it won't matter. Social network accounts, this lets you hook up like your Facebook account, your Twitter account, and your YouTube account. I may add my YouTube account to this just so I can broadcast directly from this PC after it makes the recording. Like if I record, you know, straight raw 4K HDR footage, maybe I'll just upload it directly from here so there's no minimal encoding going on to reduce the quality. Profile management, I'm not sure what, I think this lets you just save like your, you know, your settings in case you have to reinstall the program or something. And this allows you to import a previously saved profile. This looks like, yeah, it gives you like your software version, lets you check for updates. Oh, this is the most recent version, 4.3.0.40. I got that from the site just a minute ago. Oh, sharing anonymous user data. I guess I don't care. And you can get in on the beta testing, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. So that seems to be pretty much it. I'm going to be doing a single stream capture, and what I'm going to do here in a minute is fire up my main desktop, and we'll see what this thing is capable of doing, and whether or not my newly built system will capture everything correctly, or if it's going to kind of flop because it doesn't have a dedicated GPU, or if it doesn't really meet the system requirements, even though I'm not streaming. We'll find out here in a minute how it works. Give me 1 second to fire up my main desktop. The reason I wanted to wait for that is my desktop's a little noisy, and I figured it would be better if we got through some of this stuff before trying to talk over that machine. But I'll be right back once I fire this up. Alright, it's definitely working. So this is of course the monitor itself, and the PC, my main desktop, is run to the AverMedia card and then output passing through the video back up to the monitor. And then this is of course the capture software, and as you can see, it's showing the same desktop. And actually there's very minimal input lag. They said that it's pretty good, what I had read on various websites reviewing this, but I mean it's moving even on the preview image over here. almost in time with you know, the mouse cursor over here. So it's definitely doing some interesting stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to record like a run through a benchmark, and then what I want to do after that is install Shadow Play back on this one. I need to reinstall GeForce Experience and then test Shadow Play and see which has the better result, or if it's about the same, like if the frame rate is noticeably different or not, because it should be. Shadow Play uses some of your system resources. It takes up some of your CUDA cores to do the recording, versus this should be this PC over here doing the recording, and thus alleviating any workload from my gaming desktop. So that's the plan. That's the theory. What I'm going to do is fire this up here. I'll record it and I will play it back for you guys. You guys can see the results. So back in a minute once we get some recordings done. So, some update information. This is a couple days later from when I started recording this video. I ended up having to get a dedicated video card for this. I got a GTX 1060 in there. I got that on Craigslist for 160 bucks, and it seemed like the way to go. That's what they recommend on the AverMedia site, and they are correct. You do have to have it. You do have to have something reasonably good to record in 4K HDR. By now, I've already uploaded like an HDR test video on YouTube, and it definitely works. I checked it this morning. It took it quite a while to encode on the site before HDR was enabled, but it does work now. I don't know like which browsers that'll work in necessarily, but it should work in Chrome probably, and it definitely works on like my YouTube app on my Samsung Galaxy 9S Plus phone. I was able to watch Far Cry 5 footage I put up. It's 4K HDR, 60 frames a second, and I recorded it using the AverMedia and it works fine. NVIDIA Shadowplay does not support HDR, so you have to use something like this to do HDR recording, or of course, like if you have an HDR capable camera, you can do that as well. But suffice to say, at this point, this is what's in here. We've got our 1060 running in here with our i7-3770, and it seems like it does a good job of recording. It's doing, 4K 60 hertz just fine, 4K 60 hertz with HDR just fine. Whereas before, the first thing I tried was using just the CPU. I got like 7 frames a second. It was hilariously bad. Then I pulled one of my old video cards out of my collection just to see. I didn't even know what card it was because it doesn't have a sticker on it. It's like one of those generic-looking black fan shrouds, blower fan style. Turned out it was an old GTX 10, it was a 260, which of course is a very old card. And I tried that just to see, for the fun, like what kind of an improvement it would make. It actually got the frame rate up from 7 to like 20, 21, which for a card that old, doing 4K recording, I was really kind of impressed that it could do it at all. But of course it was still very bad, very choppy, it wouldn't have been worth using. But it was just interesting to see that it did anything at all. But this is, okay, of course, the 1060, and now that it's leveraging, I think it's NVENC is their encoding codec. Voila! Now we have our good recording outputs. So at this point, I've done a recording of both. I did Time Spy, 3D Mark Time Spy twice. I ran it one time using NVIDIA Shadowplay, and I ran it one time using this AverMedia card. And I do score better when I record with the AverMedia card. It's not a huge difference, but there is a noticeable score difference. So I can definitely say that, is it worth the money to set up a machine like this to do those kind of recordings? I guess only if you're really like one of these people who is probably like really pushing massive overclocks on their main desktop, and you're trying to win, first place on a benchmarking board somewhere. You'd want to be able to externally record using something like this, so that your main CPU and GPU and your desktop that you're actually attempting to benchmark does not get taxed with the recording itself, but also allows you to record without using a camera like this phone. It's like, this looks kind of janky if you're trying to record, the monitor or something by pointing a camera at it, as opposed to just doing a desktop or screen capture. So, long story short, is it worth the money? Again, only if you're doing something kind of extreme like that. It is cool though, and again, like if you want to do HDR capture, you've got to do something like this, at least for now, until NVIDIA gets decides to add support to Shadowplay. This is the way to go if you want to record in HDR. It does an amazing job. Like I say, I have a video up right now of Far Cry 5, shows some 4K 60 hertz HDR footage. If you guys want to check that out, like I said, I just uploaded it last night. But that said, if anybody has any questions, put them in the comments section. Maybe throw the video a like if you enjoyed it, or throw it a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy it, and let me know what I need to do to improve. Thanks for watching the channel, guys, and I'll be sure to make more videos soon using this card. We'll do some more HDR footage. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye.